What is happening, everyone? We are back with another episode of Next Man Up, this time with some new chemistry. I'm Tony Joseph here with my main man, Chris Lizio, and joining us once again is our old friend, Nikki G. Together, we are bringing you a brand new episode of Next Man Up, brought to you by Down the Rabbit Hole Media. All of our shows can be heard on dtrabbithole.com as well as Spotify. Today, we will be catching up on football topics such as the draft, latest signings, and schedule updates. We also give our first assessment of our New York baseball clubs, and we will start the show with an NBA playoffs update and finals drawing nearer and nearer, kind of looking like Nuggets Heat. We'll talk all about it. It's Next Man Up, and it all starts now.
Maybe I'll move to Alaska, build an igloo and rest. Inside my head is 98 degrees. Oh my God, what you want from me? I tried my best to get some relief. Just a little break to put my mind at ease. It's 98 degrees. My fever isn't chronic, it's just diabolic in nature. I guess the devil did me a favor, cause it makes me stronger every day when I get out of bed.
How you feeling?
Doing pretty good. How you doing? How you
Good.
doing?
How you doing?
Not bad.
How
Can't
you
complain. No, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing. I am very excited about this upcoming show. I feel like there's a lot that happened literally just last night, especially in the NBA. And I'm so glad Nikki is joining us because I would love to hear his thoughts on what appears to be a dying Celtics franchise. I mean, Lakers and Celtics, everybody booked it. Hey, it's happening again. The NBA Finals. It's the classic rivalry back. And Lakers already sent home last night by the Nuggets. Nikola Jokic, just absolutely legendary stuff. 6 straight double-doubles with 20 points or more. He broke the record at 4 games. Now he's got it straight to 6 games, and we'll see if he can continue it in the NBA Finals. Just an absolutely dominant performance. Even LeBron James considering retirement in the presser. Chris, we'll start with you. What were your thoughts on the Jokic's performance, the Nuggets sweeping the Lakers, and do you think they are just going to steamroll all the way through and win the title?
Well, I look at it this way. I mean, I think Jokic had an excellent series, excellent postseason so far. I mean, it's nice to see that the Nuggets are finally got, that little
First
monkey off their
franchise.
back.
Yep, finals.
First time getting to the conference, the NBA finals.
Mm-hmm.
And they did it in a dominant fashion against a team that had a lot of momentum going into it, taking out the Golden State Warriors, and knocking LeBron James out of it. Because, you never count LeBron out. End of story. Like, it's impossible to ever count him out. But last night they swept him. And Jokic is the biggest part of that. He had a triple-double last night. As you said, every game he had a double-double. Naturally, he was
every game he had a triple-double. Triple-double. I want to be very clear. Yes.
But he got 6 double-doubles.
6 triple-doubles.
6 triples. Okay, I misheard you in the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
He's got a lot of doubles and triples.
Yes. I want to make sure we give this man. No, I mean, that would be impressive enough, right? If it was double-doubles. This man is racking up points, steals, points, assists, and rebounds every night. Yeah, it is a show.
He's doing it all. And he's showing why he was the MVP the previous few seasons. Lost out on it this year.
I think he'll trade it for the Western Conference Finals MVP, though. That's probably a little more impressive, a little more important.
But as long as they ride this momentum, depending on, it'll come down to the rest versus rust. If somehow the Celtics can do something and they can mount a comeback and force game after game in all these elimination games, then we'll see that we'll have that rest versus rust conversation afterwards. But it's looking like immovable. What's it called? Unstoppable force versus movable object if the Heat make it, because Jimmy Butler's playing out of his mind as well. So it's going to be a great match of those are the two teams that we're looking at.
No doubt. And Nikki, the Celtics were in a prime position. The Knicks fans here in New York went through the same process when Miami started knocking on their doorstep. Everybody said, wow, we get to play an 8 seed. We're going to have home court. This is going to be awesome. We're going to get ahead in this series. They're totally banged up with all these injuries. And then the Heat just are dogs, and they just grind it out in a way that is ugly and physical and smack talk. And I mean, we saw Marcus Smart and Jimmy B have a rough interaction in the previous game. Celtics looked lifeless in game 3. Nikki, what's the pulse over there in New England? Are people completely giving up on the Celtics, or is there a small slither of hope?
I mean, I'll start real quick with circling back to Jokic because with him, it's
Oh,
for
yeah.
me, the guy looks like just your average 7 foot human at all, and
Oh
then
yeah,
surprises
average.
you.
7 feet is average.
Yeah, exactly. Just but he just surprises you with all of this skill and athleticism that he has, and it to me quietly puts up double doubles and triple doubles, all while commanding the floor and spreading the ball around evenly. It's not just yes, he's the main guy in Denver, but it's also not just the Nikola Jokic show. He's getting everyone on the team involved, and that's why he's been so effective over the past 2 years as MVP, and then also this year to where he's now the conference final MVP, well deserving of it to the finals. And back to the Celtics. My doubts are high for tonight. If they pull it off, I will be happy, but it's not going to be. It's going to be okay. Well, we need to get through to a game 7 for me to actually be excited about. Okay, now we have a chance of going through to the finals. Because if you look at what they did, I mean, they did it in the semifinals too against Philly. There was kind of points where they were dominating against them, but then also they just kind of gave up or didn't really have it in them. And with games that they've had this year, yes, Joe Mazzulla has been great as the head coach, but I think that's a main thing is you're seeing the effects of him being a first-time full-on head coach of there's points in the game where he could be managing the clock better, take a timeout when they have to, let the guys catch their breath, come up with a game plan and execute that. And if they go down, hey, at least they made the effort instead of just letting guys play it out. And there's a point where you can let them play it out, but you can't do that every single time. And I've seen it throughout the season where they've had these huge leads, whether going into the second half or into the final quarter, 15, 20 plus leads that they squander away because they get complacent, take the foot off the gas pedal. And then all of a sudden, when it's time to scramble and try and salvage whatever they have, either they wind up blowing the game and losing, or they barely scrape by. Or then there's the third where they somehow mount a miraculous comeback and suddenly get that fire back in them and get a dominant win. And they need to be dominant the entire way through, because if they keep letting Jimmy Butler and everyone for the Heat get under their skin and play the way that they're playing, they're going to be sitting at home in Boston. And then I'm going to be saying, let's go Sox and let's go Alouettes.
Tell me about it. I mean, listen, thank you for all of that. But if you want to beat Miami, Boston has to play to their strengths. And you got to look at it this way. You got to win tonight. And by the time people are hearing this, the Boston Celtics might even be completely eliminated. I think we could argue there's a strong chance they will be eliminated because Miami is going to want to finish them off at home tonight and get the sweep. However, if you in the games that the Knicks are able to defeat Miami, it all has to do with pace and dictating the speed of the game. Boston and New York actually were very similar styles. It would have been an epic Eastern Conference final if those two teams got to play each other. Both teams looking to push the floor, both teams looking to spread it around and, you know, not necessarily lean on one guy. Obviously, Tatum can get hot and Randall will take a lot of his shots as well as Brunson, but it's team-oriented, fast-paced basketball. And Miami is just fouling the crap out of them and slowing everything down. And Bam Adebayo is, you know, continuing to set illegal screens. I don't think the NBA really cares at this point. His screens are literally like the Eiffel Tower with his legs way too spread out. But he has been so physically dominant, and this is what they want to do, and it's working. So Boston has to try and find a way to change the music and just win tonight and bury the hatchet. Your own coach, for crying out loud, said there is issues in the locker room right now after a Game 3 conference finals loss. I know Joe Mazzulla is kind of in this position unexpectedly with, I am going to mess up his name, Udoka, the guy who had the issue with the girl on the staff. Yeah. This whole thing may be different if Brad Stevens had either still been in charge or Udoka had been able to avoid his issues.
Yeah, I mean, with Udoka getting fired, that was something that you would see in a normal corporate setting. Is if you violate the code of conduct, there is going to be consequences for that, and that's exactly what happened. He got fired because he violated the Celtics code of conduct. Can't wrong the Celtics for doing that. And I mean, they
I
put all
think
their
they felt
faith
a
in
lot of pressure
Missoula.
to do it. I think they could have suspended him for an extended period of time, given the situation. Obviously, he was publicly humiliated, his family, all that. Like, he got busted, basically. So I
No,
don't
yeah.
know. And obviously, there was pressure from around the league for the Celtics to set a standard that you have to do things the right way, be the leader, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, it would have been an uphill battle to get that coach's reputation back with the team. But I think you could have considered a lengthy suspension so that now this situation, you're in the playoffs, you have the more experienced coach that the players were more comfortable with in the first place. So that could have been an
Well,
option.
they more or less
Mhm.
they more or less did give him a lengthy suspension, but didn't prohibit him from interviewing elsewhere if anyone wanted to offer him a job.
Yeah.
And now he got the job in Houston for next season.
Yeah, but I think that it didn't have to be the entire season. They could have said to him like 30, 45 games, because then half the season, then maybe he doesn't interview anywhere else and he's still your coach. They didn't have to let him, leave like that. I guess obviously maybe they thought it was for the best. All I'm saying is it's very clear right now that Missoula is in a little bit over his head, and he's admitted it publicly in his post-game presser. So Boston, I don't know. They need a miracle. Denver got LeBron James thinking about retirement. We have to at least wrap up on that with NBA. How legitimate are the talks? Is this going to be another Brett Favre scenario where he's retired, he didn't retire, he's retired, he didn't retire? Or do you think LeBron will just go away when he's ready?
He's going to go away when he's ready. I know that he's said many times that his goal is to play with his son. So until he gets to play one season with his son, he ain't going anywhere.
Yeah,
That's at
and
least
I
2
think his
seasons
son
away.
just signed with.
Yeah.
Yeah, his son just signed with Southern
He signed with
California a few weeks
USC.
ago.
So he'll play. He'll do
So
one and done at USC.
minimum 2 years until Bronny is in the NBA. And we can
Yeah,
assume he's going to be, a one and done first year offer if that's the situation. I think it's a safe assumption, but.
And I gotta imagine too, it's kind of funny with LeBron. I mean, everyone jokes that LeBron's secretly a GM and secretly runs the team to whatever he wants. But I gotta imagine if he doesn't get playing on that, if he doesn't get his way with having his son drafted to the same team as him, and then he plays against his son in that rookie season for Bronny Jr., that I feel like LeBron, the competitor in him, is going to come out and he's just going to try and mess with his son and get in his face the whole time. I can imagine how their pickup games at home must be too.
That would
You
be
can only
pretty
imagine what
unique.
the ratings on that game will be on television.
It could even be like a Ken Griffey Senior, Ken Griffey Jr. thing. He doesn't like something that Junior does, and then after
Take his
the game,
keys
he says,
away.
"Hey, you're grounded."
It would have been cool to see that. I honestly don't know if we're going to get to that point of LeBron either playing on the same team or against his son. I know he has gone on record saying it, but the guy is pushing 40 years old, and he was so apparently exhausted in the fourth quarter of last night's game. He had a dominant first quarter, 21 points, coming out, doing kingly things that we've seen him do for 20 years. And
I mean, even the first half, he
made an accidental 3-pointer too.
That was impressive. But all I'm saying is he did not want this shot in the fourth quarter. The Lakers down 2. I mean, even throughout the fourth quarter, it didn't seem like he wanted to put up a shot. They didn't hit a 3-pointer in the entire quarter until Reeves bailed him out, I think, with 2 minutes left. So I didn't understand the tactics. I mean, you're talking about LeBron James being a coach or GM. Well, then you should have gone right at Jokic the second he got his 5th foul, which was very early in the fourth quarter. And I was amazed that the Lakers continued to hoist up 3-pointers, considering all of their points were in the paint in the quarter, and Jokic couldn't foul, or worst case scenario for them, he does, and then Jokic is out of the game, which would have been exactly what they needed. I didn't understand the approach at all. And I also thought that LeBron should have passed up the last shot. It didn't look like he wanted it at all. They could have done a quick little, Tim Duncan special to give right back to the inbound passer. Mark Jackson actually said that on the air. He was like, I watch Reeves here on the inbound, and I thought that would have been the perfect play. Go for the 3, you're down 3-0, and it's a 2-point game. Just try and end it. You're going to force overtime. LeBron James would not have survived overtime, and he didn't even get a shot off. So I think the Nuggets were the rightful victor, and I think they are a great matchup for the Miami Heat because they can do everything we just said. They can control the pace. Will they be able to, overcome the physicality? We saw Jokic literally hurl himself at Morris in a previous altercation against Miami this year, where you could tell Jokic was not going to take any of that crap, that fouling in between the whistles and stuff like that. Now, moving on to football. Christopher, it's already happened. Aaron Rodgers injured. How did the Jets fans feel, you think, as a fan base? Obviously, the injury of Rodgers is not serious. It's a cane strained calf. He's going to
It's a cane strap.
I can't believe I just said that.
Say it 5 times fast. But
you get what I'm trying to say.
It's early nicks and scrapes, but it's the Jets, and I said it's bound to happen. Something's going to happen, and we're going to wind up seeing Zach Wilson at some point this year. I put the mark on it now. May 23rd,
I hope he
Zach
does
Wilson
awesome.
will start. Zach Wilson will start at least one game in the 2023-2024 season. Book it.
And there's nothing a little ayahuasca can't fix, though.
I would love to see Wilson have like a 400-yard performance out of nowhere just to mess with the heads of Jets fans so that anytime Aaron Rodgers has a bad performance, the one thing they're going to remember is Zach Wilson throwing for over 400 yards. Probably not going to happen, but it would be fitting for the psychology of a Jets fan.
That part aside, as I said, it's a minor calf strain. Nothing too serious, nothing to really worry about. But the Rodgers effect has fully been in effect since he got traded to the team, since the schedule release.
You got your jersey?
Games, including.
Is that why he's hurt?
No.
Did you buy a jersey?
No, I did not. I did not get one. Don't put this on me. But
all right, well, don't do it.
6 primetime games, including the first ever Black Friday NFL game at 3:00 against Miami in the Meadowlands.
And it could be more than 6 with flexing late in the season.
It could be. But so the Rodgers effect is in full effect schedule wise. Attitude wise, the clips I see of the team, it is the most positive feeling that I've ever seen looking at any social media. Not almost arrogant, but it's like the atmosphere in the facility seems very high, very good. It's probably the happiest I've seen Rodgers look in years. I mean, he actually looks like he genuinely wants to be there, unlike the last how many years in Green Bay where he just looked miserable and like he was being held prisoner. So it's definitely seems like it's refreshed both the team and him. So I have high hopes that it will translate into production on the field.
Last question on the Jets, and I want to hear Nikki's take on the all-defense New England Patriots. Lizio, what do you think is going to be the relationship like with Aaron Rodgers and Robert Saleh? Rodgers is not exactly buddy with his head coaches in the past. He's obviously very vocal about the type of offense he wants to run. I get the sense Saleh is going to let him control a lot of that, but these cameras are going to be on them constantly. Is there a chance there could be an issue?
So I look at it this way regarding the two of them. Rodgers has spoken very highly of Coach Saleh prior to this year. Like even when they had their matchup in Green Bay last year, he talked about when they met in the preseason the year before when they had the joint practice. And he said he was very impressed by him as a coach, as a person.
I think he's done that for all his coaches at one point. I'm just saying.
No, not even. Because, I mean, from the second that Matt LaFleur,
in the beginning, he was hyping LaFleur.
In the beginning,
in the very beginning,
but
which is right now.
It soured really quickly. This is also the first defensive head coach that Rodgers is going to be playing for. So it's not like you have the head coach trying to completely control your side of the ball. So that could work in his favor with their chemistry and their relationship. Because, Matt LaFleur this is what we're doing on offense, end of story. Saleh, defensive-minded head coach, defensive coordinator, defensive guru, as people like to say. And then you have someone like Hackett as an OC that likes to try and be buddy with his players and kind of let them have their way. So it seems like it's kind of the perfect setting for him to be successful when it comes to the coaching.
Yeah, they got the least qualified head coach to yell at Aaron Rodgers as the offensive coordinator, which pretty much gives Aaron Rodgers power to be more in charge than the offensive coordinator. I think it's probably what Aaron wants. It's probably what the Jets are willing to give. I just hope that level of power for a quarterback in New York media limelight, not saying it's going to mess with the Jets page, but it could happen.
Stop saying that. You're basically saying Rodgers is the offensive coordinator. He's not going to be the offensive coordinator.
He
Just
basically
take that out of your brain.
He basically
Take
is.
that out of your brain.
I think he'll. Well, why? I don't understand why. I don't
There
want to
will
harp on this, but I think it's
there will
pretty
be
fair
more
that Aaron Rodgers is going to be in full control.
there will be more that he will have more input than other coaches may have given him because of his relationship with the coach. However, he's not going to be calling all the shots. They will respect what each other has to say because they
Right.
respect each other as it is. So it's, Rodgers says, I'm seeing this on the defense on the field. Maybe we should try
Just
doing
make
this
sure
instead.
we count how many
We'll see.
audibles we see. I mean, obviously, Aaron Rodgers is known to change a few things at the line.
He's
when he sees things he
also,
doesn't like.
won 4 MVPs. He's earned the right to call some audibles if he sees something on the field. I mean, there's few players that you'd say has earned that right. He's probably earned that right in some regard.
Now, speaking of defensive coaches, Nikki G, Bill Belichick, obviously, I think it's fair to say at this particular moment, every sports fan is assuming that the legacy of the Patriots dynasty is mainly associated with his relationship with Tom Brady. Obviously, Bill Belichick knows defense. We've seen him win as New York Giants defensive coordinator twice. He basically made the defense that made LT who he was. So I don't think there's any question that Bill Belichick is a master of calling defense. But without the great Tom Brady and Bill Belichick still being GM of the team, are New England fans starting to chirp? Or are they assuming that Belichick will be the coach for as long as he wants to be the coach?
I mean, I think that it's probably going to be Belichick until he decides he's done, or basically until he dies on the field or something like that, if you want to get that extreme. But I mean, he's always been a defensive minded guy. That's been his wheelhouse. And the pick that he had with the first round, Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon. I mean, I think that's a good pick, definitely, with the loss of Devin McCourty to retirement after last year. That's going to be a good one to put onto the defensive backfield and see how he meshes with everybody else. You got an emerging leader in Kyle Duggar, I think, as well, who can help fill that role. Maybe not the full captain role that McCourty had, but that's a boost to the defense. Personally, I would have hoped that Belichick would. I think it's Zay Flowers, who's the receiver out of Boston College that Baltimore wound up drafting. I think that would have been nice, but we also know what happened last time he drafted a receiver, first round, cough, cough, N'Keal Harry. And now he's with the Bears and not doing anything probably. But it's a big year. This is a big year this year. As I said last time that I was on this show, if the Patriots make the playoffs and make it as a wild card team, I'm happy. I'm happy with that. It's an improvement from last year. It's a big put up or shut up year for Mac Jones too. You got Bill O'Brien back on the team as the offensive coordinator. He was Mac's offensive coordinator at Alabama, so there's the familiarity there. Hopefully that is a huge upgrade from the mess with Matt Patricia last year. But yeah, the defensive minded stuff, I mean, it's always been Belichick's wheelhouse and always been his main focus, but there's got to be a big emphasis on the improvement of the offense this season too. And again, O'Brien's a start with that, but it's got to carry throughout that entire unit.
And Mac Jones, what do you say to all the clips and reels going around the internet that he is a dirty player? We've seen a number of slides where he goes cleats up, hits guys below the belt, below the knee. Obviously, as a quarterback, that's not normally something people really look at, but you can see it either on, reverses or catches and runs where he gets opportunities to blindside hit people. He does do it, and he has gone below the knee. That obviously could rub people the wrong way. What do Boston New England fans, feel about that stuff going out there about Mac Jones? I'm not calling him a dirty player, but there's like footage out there that would argue that he's a dirty player.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely argue that he's a dirty player by doing that, and that could go for anybody, in any position in the NFL.
Probably help if he just played better. Nobody would give him as much crap.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that too. Yeah, I think with the level of play he had last year, he's definitely more subject to that kind of criticism. So maybe we'll see if if he pulls that back this year, if Bill hasn't talked to him already, both Bills even, then I'm sure they'll probably at some point, if they feel that it's gotten to a point where they have to say enough is enough, they're going to pull him aside and tell him what's what, and hopefully help him change his ways on that.
Amen. And last of our teams, because I saved the best for last, the Giants, I think, dominated the draft boards.
No bias at all on that comment.
All the names
No.
are A pluses on the board. I mean, there's never a bad feeling on draft day, is there? When you see all these names from all these schools that you didn't really watch that closely, but you managed to watch recent YouTube highlights of, are you all of a sudden feeling good? That's me right now. I'm feeling very good watching all the YouTube hype of a lot of these players. Sure, some of them I've seen clips of here and there, but I don't watch every single college football game religiously. I pay attention to the combine. I pay attention to all the headlines going into the draft and stuff like that. So seeing what we got, where we got it, and seeing that Mr. Daboll himself initiated the trade by texting Sean McVay the deal to move up that led to the Giants drafting Jalen Hyatt, because they were actually nervous in the second round that they weren't going to get Hyatt, because they thought the Bears traded up to get Schmitz, the center that they actually took in the second round. So it was a little bit of a moment there where the Giants said, holy cow, this guy is actually going to fall all the way to the third round. We have to move up and get him right now. So the Giants feel like they struck gold in the first 3 rounds. That makes me happy. All hail Brian Daboll. I just hope it all works out with Saquon, which I have faith will work out before July. It seems to be a lot of unnecessary. It seems like it's too bad that it's been a lot of back and forth between Shane and Saquon. Like, maybe it always seems like maybe they're making progress, then they don't. 12 million, 13 million, 14 million. I think they're literally just going up by the million until they can find a way to make it work. And I'm sure that's ultimately what will happen. But Cristoforo, the head of the competition committee at Next Man Up, has some information for us on the NFL's new rules going into the season.
Sure. There's 3 I want to talk about today. The first one being Thursday Night Football. There was talks maybe they'll add flex scheduling to it, and the owners approved to flex schedule Thursday night games. However, they need to have 28 days notice, so that's 4 weeks prior. You'll know if a Thursday night game is changed.
That'll still help from what last year was, because last year was garbage, and everybody knew that.
So this way we don't get the Broncos on how many primetime games, and we don't have games like Bears Commanders on Thursday night, and just all these snooze fests.
Yes.
But so they need to be notified 4 weeks out. Obviously, a lot can happen in 4 weeks. One team could be rolling the next second, they lose a key player, and then they're locked in 4 weeks from then, and you wind up with the snooze fest again. You could wind up losing Tua for half the season if the Dolphins get in there or whatever. But it is better than, giving them a week notice like they do with Sunday Night Football, because you still have the same amount of days of preparation for that. Thursday is the shortened week. I mean, I'd be fine if they just got rid of Thursday Night Football altogether, because I feel like you see more catastrophic injuries on Thursday night than any other day of the week.
Just Thanksgiving, all I need. It's the only Thursday night game I need.
Give me Thanksgiving. That's all I need for Thursday Night Football. But then also they are essentially adding an emergency quarterback rule where that you can dress 3 active quarterbacks.
Ooh, like goalies in the NHL, right?
And the third quarterback won't count towards the roster count for that game. That
is exactly
so you have your maximum amount of players. So that, I guess, my guess is that they can't use him as some sort of gadget player. This is a designated quarterback. I don't know 100% how it's implemented, but it's like, this is the quarterback. So this way you don't have
to be like Keanu
situation
Reeves in street clothes in the first row of the fan base. You're going to have to hop the fence if they have a Tua situation.
This way you don't wind up like the 49ers in the playoffs where Purdy goes down, and he was already your third string quarterback as it was. So, I mean, you don't get stuck without a quarterback on game day if someone gets hurt. Miami and the 49ers would have loved those rules last year. I'll tell you that much.
No doubt.
And then the one that came down the line today is that the fair catch has been changed for opening kickoffs. Well, not opening kickoffs, but kickoffs punts after scores. Not punts. Punts are still.
Hold on a second. So we're talking about fair catches exclusively for kickoffs, no punts.
For kickoffs, correct. So if a kick goes inside the 25-yard line to the receiving team and they call a fair catch on the 10-yard line, it gets brought to the 25-yard line.
They're just slowly getting rid of kickoffs. I mean, obviously that's what that's about. I mean, and it might
yes
be okay.
And no.
Mostly,
it might be
yes.
okay. I mean,
so it's like an extended touchback, basically.
Yes, basically the touchback is anywhere from the end zone to the 24-yard line.
That is insane. That is actually
I
insane.
believe that
they could have brought it to the 10. You know, they didn't have to do such a drastic upgrade.
But if you fair catch at the 16, if it's a short kick that goes to the 16, you can fair catch it on the 16 and go to the 25. You get an extra, 9 yards or whatever. You don't get stuck at the 16. So their reasoning is nothing to do with the pace of the game, but it's for the sake of the safety of the players, because there's a lot of really bad injuries on kickoffs because someone's running straight ahead as fast as they can and hitting someone. A lot of head and neck injuries.
I just sort of feel bad
kickoffs and stuff
for
like that.
The rookies or the like third string players that like just barely get to be on kickoff. That's like their one moment to play, and it's literally going to be just them doing sprints.
We'll still see them. I mean, we'll still see kick returns. We'll see how often. It's on a 1-year basis, so it's very much how that challenging the penalty rule.
I would never try. If I was a coach, I would say, give me the ball to 25 any day. Like I wouldn't even risk anything.
So yeah. So it's if they could decide to keep it past this year, they could get rid of it after this year. It's basically on a 1-year trial right now. But as I said, it's for the sake of the players, not for the sake of the pace of the game. Very similar to how baseball had their changes this year for the pace of the game to make those faster. And we're in late May now. We could get a little bit of a progress report of our teams quick.
Well, it's over 50 games, so I think that's a large enough sample size.
It's over 50 games.
Yeah.
So, both teams are on the rise, Yankees and Mets, and the Red Sox are sort of in the mix a little bit. They do have a winning record. The Eastern divisions, I'd say, are some of the toughest divisions.
They're like 3 games behind the Yankees. He's like, they're sort of in the mix.
And
they're
AL.
like literally right behind the Yankees. Whatever.
When you hear that they're 4th in the standings in the division, you think, oh, 4th in the standings. But
the Yankees are 3rd.
I know. It's such a tight race in the East for both the NL and the AL.
I'm glad I'm not in the AL East. It looks a little hard.
And the AL East is dominated by Baltimore and Tampa right now, too.
Baltimore,
which is wild to think.
Nowhere. Both of them. They were the 2 bottom ones last year.
But you're welcome for the Mets taking 2 out of 3 against Tampa literally last weekend. You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. And what's crazy about Baltimore, too, is they came out of nowhere last year, finished above 500 for the first time in a while. And then have just carried that over with all the young talent they have. Like Adley Rutschman's their main guy right now. And just they could be scary. They could be looking like the Orioles from back in the day at some point.
Teams like the Orioles and the Rays are showing that institutionalized processes could actually be a formula for success in baseball, more so than the big, sexy signings. I mean, it's the money ball. There are plenty of teams doing the Billy Beane money ball approach. And in the case of the Rays, they always have the best relief pitching. They always have like the sickest guys, all these arms like falling off trees down there. I don't really understand it, but it seems to work. In the case
of
the
hanging
Mets,
with the iguanas, and when it gets cold, they fall out of the trees.
That must be it, Chris.
Yeah, But then if they get to the World Series again, is Kevin Cash going to pull the same crap that he did with Blake Snell back in 2020?
Which caused him to leave and go to Santiago.
And how Kevin Cash was not fired after that and still somehow got a Hell Manager of the Year is beyond me. But
regular season award.
I just feel like
it's Anthony's it's Pierce's favorite kind of award, a regular season award.
Yep. I listen, I just think you're seeing more and more baseball teams looking to get younger. I mean, obviously, in the case of the Mets, they threw so much money at Verlander and Scherzer, and they only just both looked good this week. We got 50 games into the season, and we got one doubleheader where they both had starting performances where they looked good and won. So obviously, that has not been worth the money so far. But basically, you kind of wonder, the Mets suddenly caught fire on this 5-game winning streak, going young, calling up Alvarez, leaning more on Brett Beatty than Escobar. And obviously, the big hit from Vientos was the one that really started the winning streak. So the Mets trying to go younger. You see the Rays, you see the Orioles. Even the Yankees didn't. I was just talking about this with my cousin the other day. Even the Yankees didn't take calls about Bryce Harper when he hit his free agency because they didn't even want to think about what they were going to have to pay him. So obviously, maybe they knew they were going to have to pay Judge one day. But the point I'm trying to make is not even the Yankees are throwing money like the Mets and Dodgers have been. And you just kind of wonder, is it always going to pan out? Obviously, in baseball, it's a little more just dependent on the ownership's philosophy because, you know, you deal with a luxury tax, but what are the consequences of overpaying players really? It is just all about what the owner's approach is to it. And I struggled with the fact that we paid Scherzer and Verlander so much for short term. All Mets fans say, oh, it's just 2 years. It's a lot of money in 2 years. And obviously DeGrom walked, and I think they're probably going to be more reliant on Senga and McGill as the season progresses because Verlander and Scherzer are probably going to continue to be in and out throughout the season. Just saying. And that's my Mets spiel.
Yeah, and the Yankees are, their pitching has been the weakness, which is what I said going into the season. The bullpen is spotty. The starting pitching has.
It's too bad they couldn't sign DeGrom. Every Yankee fan told me, they're going to sign DeGrom.
Behind Garrett Cole, I mean, they're not that reliable. Even I'm drawing a blank on his name right. Nestor isn't what he was last year.
No.
Montes has not pitched this year. Rodon has not pitched this year because they're both still injured. So.
10-game suspension for Domingo, the cheater, the latest victim of the same umpire.
The same umpire.
It's
really
remarkable.
Is a wonderful thing up here in Boston too. So,
But when come time for the trade deadline, I wouldn't be surprised if the Yankees made a deal to get some sort of pitching in there. Maybe Torres gets traded because they have a lot of young players that they do want to put in there because. Torres is probably the most tradable player on the roster right now. So I'd say if anyone gets traded at the deadline, it's him for some pitching.
And did the ghost of George Steinbrenner recently haunt Garrett Cole? Because now his hair is finally short. Because he had long hair for the past couple of years. I'm like, I didn't think that was allowed in the Yankees clubhouse at all.
Maybe Hal got in his ear a little bit and started to get him to think the Yankee way. Of course, that is always the way.
Maybe Hal's having some premonitions. His dad's coming back from the dead and being all upset about stuff, and he's trying to change the way. So,
and Nick, last thing on baseball. Go ahead. Go anywhere. Give us our Red Sox preview from our friend up north there.
Yeah, I mean, 26 and 22 right now, fourth in the division. So it's an improvement so far. The pitching has looked a little better. I am so happy with Chris Sale over his last 4 or 5 starts. He's been looking like the Chris Sale of old. He's dominant. He's getting extended innings. He's striking out 5+, 6+, or 7+ guys in a game. And he's limiting runs, which has been great. It seems like he's knocked the rust off from the beginning of the season and from his injury. So hopefully he continues on his momentum. Brian Bayo, technically no longer a rookie after last year, but still a young pitcher. He's starting to slowly come together. So hopefully with his work and the work the coaches have with him, that can get him to a better point. Corey Kluber. I wish we signed Michael Wacha in the offseason. Corey Kluber is awful. I know we just moved Nick Pivetta to the bullpen too, but I think we gotta do something about Kluber too because it's not doing it. The offense is looking good too. Rafael Devers, phenomenal. Masataka Yoshida had a 15 or 16 game hit streak at one point. He's looking great. He's gotten out of his slump. Even guys like Connor Wong too, who I did not think was going to be well at all at the plate, is starting to come alive. So we'll see what happens. And they lost against the Angels last night, but maybe they'll be able to take these next 2 out of the 3 and hopefully continue more success through the West Coast trip.
And that's it. That's our show. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Next Man Up on Down the Rabbit Hole Media. Musician Nick Michelin just sat down with us to promote the latest album from Noda titled Sono. It's a sleepy disco sound that you won't want to miss. You can hear the whole album and read the exclusive interview on dtrabbithole.com. I'm Tony Joseph with Chris Lizio and Nikki G. Thanks for tuning in, and be well, everyone. Use this